Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep to the ultimate showdown, modern tank versus medieval castle wall. Which one is better?
A 70-ton main battle tank rolling toward a 900-year-old curtain wall introduces a structural collision medieval engineers never modeled. You are looking at a smoothbore cannon capable of launching a kinetic energy penetrator at over 1,600 meters per second. That single round carries more focused destructive energy than an entire siege train of trebuchets firing together. The wall ahead of it was built to survive centuries of siege doctrine, not one round of modern tank fire. We are looking at a curtain wall built from coursed ashlar limestone, roughly 2 meters thick at the base, tapering toward a crenellated parapet above. Vitruvius, writing in his treatise De Architectura, described defensive walls as systems meant to dissipate impact gradually across mass and depth, not to resist a single point of catastrophic load. That principle held for 1,000 years of siege engines. It collapses instantly against a kinetic energy penetrator, delivering over 8 megajoules on contact. The wall's foundation sits on a rubble core, faced with dressed stone blocks, bonded by lime mortar, carrying a compressive strength around 5 megapascals. Christopher Duffy, in his study Siege Warfare, documented how medieval masons compensated for this weak bonding by building thick, battered bases, wide enough to spread the load of any single strike across dozens of adjacent blocks. That redundancy defeated stone-throwing engines for centuries. It does nothing against a discarding sabot round traveling faster than 3 times the speed of sound. Above the base, the parapet narrows to accommodate arrow slits and matriculations, each opening a deliberate weak point traded for offensive coverage. Those openings were calculated against arrows and crossbow bolts, projectiles carrying only a few dozen joules of energy each. A single modern penetrator carries roughly 200,000 times that energy, concentrated into a cross-section smaller than a human fist. Upon impact, the penetrator's kinetic energy converts almost instantly into a localized shockwave, propagating through the stone at several thousand meters per second. This exceeds the wall's 5 megapascal mortar bond and its roughly 20 megapascal limestone compressive limit within microseconds. The facing stones do not simply crack, they shatter into secondary fragmentation, each block becoming its own projectile hurled backward into the wall's own rubble core. Eugène Viollet-le-Duc, cataloging French fortification methods in his Dictionnaire raisonné de l'architecture, noted that medieval walls relied on mass inertia to absorb blunt strikes delivered over comparatively long durations. A trebuchet strike transferred its energy across tens of milliseconds, giving the stone time to distribute stress through the entire structure. A modern round delivers its entire energy load in under 1 millisecond, an interval those walls were never engineered to survive. To put the mismatch in comparative terms, matching the destructive output of one modern tank round would require dozens of coordinated trebuchet strikes landing on the exact same 6-inch target simultaneously. No medieval siege commander ever achieved that kind of precision. 13th century siege trains needed weeks of sustained bombardment to open a breach that a single modern round accomplishes in under a second. Consider the logistics gap underneath the physics. A medieval siege train hauling trebuchets across difficult terrain needed hundreds of laborers, dozens of oxen, and weeks of assembly time before a single stone left the sling. A modern tank crew of 4 reaches the same wall under its own power in a matter of hours, carrying dozens of rounds internally with no external supply train required for the engagement itself. The entire economic and manpower structure that made medieval siege warfare survivable for a defender simply does not exist in this comparison. The failure here is not a design flaw born of medieval ignorance. It is a mismatch of eras. 13th century engineers optimized for counterweight trebuchets, throwing stones weighing perhaps 90 kilograms at speeds under 50 meters per second. Their walls succeeded completely within that threat model for hundreds of years, turning back armies that lacked any faster alternative. The accountability gap only opens when you extend that same structure 8 centuries forward into a threat environment defined by discarding sabot penetrators and composite armor doctrine. No accountable engineer of the period failed here. The structure simply outlived the physics it was originally built to survive. Every stone, every mortar joint, every battered base was correctly sized for the loads its builders could reasonably anticipate. The wall did exactly what it was designed to do. The world around it changed instead. A 70-ton main battle tank does not need to breach this wall through repetition. One round does the work an entire medieval siege army once spent months attempting to achieve. The curtain wall that turned back 1,000 attackers across 900 years folds instantly against a machine its own builders could never have calculated for. What happens when the structure you trust...
That wraps up this ultimate clash. Let me know in the comments whether you think modern firepower or medieval defense takes the crown, and don't forget to subscribe for more engineering breakdowns.